Welcome, foolish mortals, to another Friday live chat. Not a lot going on around here. Man, it's bright in here. Well, the sun's out, so you can't get past that. So I hope everybody had a good week and is going to have a good weekend. I always work on the weekend, so I don't get a lot of time. This week I actually did have 2 days off, so I did get a toy hunt done yesterday, which you'll see tomorrow. I also got some other videos shot yesterday. You can go to the page and see what's coming up. I got a few things, some Ghostbusters, some Star Wars. I've got like 4 or 5 other videos I need to get going. Hey, Blue, what's up? Hey, Mark, if you want to join in, if you're feeling up to it, the link is at the top there. And I think I sent it to you too. I ran very far behind this morning, guys. I'm barely got here on time for my own Megan live stream. But so usually I would have had requests out and that kind of stuff. But today's just an open forum. Anybody who wants to join in and talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, whether it's Moon Knight, Morbius, the Batman still. Is anybody still talking about that? So anybody wants to come in, you can. It's going to kind of be a pretty laid back one because even though I did go toy hunting, I didn't buy anything. So not that there wasn't anything to buy. There was a few things to pick up, but it just I'm broke. Mortgage was this last week and had to really do that. So that's where the money went this week. So maybe next week, depending on what's going on, I might pick up a couple things. So no worries, Mark. If you can join in, do. If you want to relax, I know you're not feeling good. I watched parts of the streams yesterday off and on. Actually got on a lot more streams than I usually do. I've been trying to get better at that. You guys are so great in coming and supporting me. I've been trying to get back onto you guys more and more. I do watch a whole bunch of stuff at work. Sometimes I can comment, sometimes I can't, depending on what's going on around me. I just kind of keep them on in the background. So, that's too bad. That stuff just takes and grabs you. So hopefully you'll knock it out here in the next couple of days. Rolando, how you doing, bud? Good to see you. Hope you're having a decent week. Wonder how I could, man, that light is just killing me. Hang on a second. I'm going to see if I can't turn a couple of these. Let me see if I can get rid of this one. Does that help? Oh, man, that is so much better. Wasn't necessarily the sun. It was just kind of Steph. Yeah, but I've been pretty bad about it recently. I've been really kind of lazy about getting on and supporting Cool Guy and Sleeping and you. And I've been watching a lot of John playing that game of his, Elder Rings. You know. Oh man, I looked for him yesterday. I hit a couple Walmarts and a Target. Of course, just stacks of John Cena and The Rock. They refuse to mark those down in my area. Same with the Eternals. Those are still basically full price. Hey, Mick, how's it going? Good eye. What else was full price? Sleeping has seen a lot of stuff marked down. Oh, the Fig Arts. He's just seen some Fig Art figures marked down. Those are not marked down in my area. There was one Walmart that had marked a whole bunch of Funko down, all of which I already had, but the other stores had not marked it down yet. I don't understand. When I worked retail, if a company sent out a price change, it was a price change across the board for the company. Now, it could be regional depending on how big the company was. When I worked at Toys R Us, we did have regional price changes on things like clothes and stuff like that. But if you marked an action figure down, it got marked down across the board. So, That sucks. I mean, we used to. I mean, if you go back and look at a year ago in the stuff and some of my videos, I found all kinds of clearance and stuff. And it was, I don't know if it was because of it and they had to get rid of stuff in order for new stuff to get in. And no, maybe there's just not as much to sell, but um, I didn't, the Eternals are weird to me just because they keep going up and down in price. And, they'll be clearanced out for $7 and then they'll get them back for 20. Then they'll mark them down. Like my Walmart has them marked down to $19. That's not a sale. That's a rollback. And it's not, the best rollback either. So really, I've just haven't been buying a lot. I did get some new, some autograph cards that I've been picking up. I got some from a guy. I buy a whole bunch from a guy online historian on his eBay store, and I got a few decent things. Sometimes I bid just to help him out, and then I get stuck with things I don't necessarily want. But it's still autographs, and I, that's just how my collection works. But I got. Let's see if we can see him good. This is Kelly Flanagan in Mira. And this is Julian Christopher from an episode called Code of Honor in The Next Generation. This is Michael Ucklin. He played Zane on Bates Motel. These are all from The Twilight Zone. This is Johnny Ellman from the episode The Fugitive. Daniel Kolek from On Tuesday We Leave for Home. And Jimmy Titus in The Incredible World of Horatio Ford. I love the Twilight Zone ones because, of course, these kids are in their 60s now. Hey, Stargate, how you doing? Good to see you, man. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, well, and weirdly, I mean, I don't know if it was just sleeping. Somebody else saw a whole bunch of like those stupid Halloween masks Walmart was selling on clearance, and backpack clips on clearance, and the NECA Halloween things, and then a whole bunch of NECA figures on clearance again. None of that's on clearance here. Of course, also, none of my Targets have that end cap set up, that supposedly Hullathon thing. That just didn't happen here at any Target I've been to so far. I don't know if they just decided there was no point in putting the end cap up, because they could just put the stuff in their normal sections, which aren't full, and then sell it from there. Or, one store told me they just put it on a cart and set it out in the aisle. And since they didn't put limits on them, people bought them all. So, that's just how it is. And then I guess Walmart's little con thing yesterday just was an absolute disaster. All those vintage figures sold out in seconds. They really are trying to push us out of the hobby, because if you can't buy them, what's the point of playing anymore, really? Yeah, Andre's an exclusive, and I had him pre-ordered, and then they canceled my pre-order. So I don't know if I'll ever see that. Of course, I didn't think I'd see the Roddy Pipers, and I did eventually find it in store. And not this week, but probably the following week, I'm going to do a run out to Kansas and hit. There's one just over the border, and then one about 30 miles in. So it'll be 350, 400 mile round trip just to get out there, just to hit 2 Walmarts, because there's just nothing in between here and there. There's no Walmarts, there's no Targets, there's no Walgreens between the edge of Denver and Goodland, Kansas. And then for Salacious, he can He can run this back if Bob will let him. I got autograph. It says Taylor Marion. These are called bench warmer cards. They've been making these forever, and they used to be like cheerleaders, and then they were like just kind of models and stuff, which is what it seems to be now. YouTubers and things like that. This is Lisa Cleave. Ryan Shamrock. You like that's a real name. Candace Kita. And they're cute. I don't have any real use for them, but I have dozens of them. And then I picked up some hockey cards for no reason whatsoever. This is John Michael Leitz. He plays for the Colorado Avalanche. So I only got it because it was an Avalanche card. And then I just kind of accidentally won a whole bunch of others. So this is Jeffrey Lupal. He plays for the Philadelphia Flyers. This is Andrew Ebbett. I don't know who. Let's see. I don't know who he plays for. I can't see the logo. Yes, special lady friends. Rum, if Bob's around and you guys want to join, the links at the top, I will also put it in there. There we go. And then this is Jonathan Erickson. He plays for the Detroit Red Wings. And then this is Kyle Quincy. He also plays for the Colorado Avalanche, although he didn't when this picture was taken. This is Stephen Meyer. He plays for the Florida Panthers. And Mateus Rotella. He plays for the Red Wings. So I kind of accidentally won those. I didn't mean to, just because I'm not the biggest sports guy, but I appreciate all the hard work they put into their jobs and stuff. I just don't. I don't do sports anymore. Growing up, I played some baseball. I played football in high school and stuff, but now they just whine about their $100 million contracts, and I'm not going to support that kind of stuff. What's up? What's up? How you doing? Good to see you. JT, how you doing? No, I don't. I actually, honestly, I don't have a lot of football. I can't get to that binder, or I would grab it and I could show you some stuff. But mostly, I collected Broncos. The Broncos have always been my team since I got here in 1980. Before that, I was a Raiders fan, which, that's hard to admit, and even a Cowboys fan. But the Cowboys fan was mass hysteria and mass hypnosis. Nobody really wanted to be a Cowboys fan, but they had those cheerleaders. And, there you go. So that's actually all I got this week. I'm actually waiting for a box from Amazon that should have, I think it has a vintage figure, and it has a Lego set. So apart from that, it was mortgage week. So nothing really there. We're of course all waiting for the beginning of Moon Knight, which I think is Wednesday. That's going to be a lot of fun. So that'll give us something to talk about next Friday. And I definitely want to get, if Left Coast is going to watch, I want to start getting his crazy, just randomness that he comes up with. Yeah, they're those girls on the sidelines. They don't show them enough. But that was just the biggest thing. When me and Mark were young, the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were like the thing. And they'd guest star on TV shows. They'd be on either a variety show, or they might be on an episode of Fall Guy, or They just randomly love boat. They just randomly be on things. Um, Very good marketing for the Cowboys and for uh, the NFL, and that's why everybody else started getting some. The Broncos still have their cheerleaders. They were talking about getting rid of them, but I don't think they have yet. Speaking of Broncos, Mile High Stadium caught fire yesterday, and they don't know how, or at least they didn't when I went to bed last night. There's somebody taking a video there because they do tours, and you can see up in the stands one seat is on fire. And then as soon as oil melts, it catches fire, and it caught fire to the other ones, and then it got up into one of the uh, hoity-toity boxes. But they're not absolutely sure how it even started. There's nobody over there, so it doesn't look like arson. I don't know. There's probably a lot of disgruntled um, uh, Seattle Seahawks fans, but coming in and burning our stadium down, that's pretty harsh for us stealing your quarterback. But well, I would say that's probably, I don't know if the Packers do either. It's kind of cold to have cheerleaders in Chicago and, Green Bay in the middle of winter. But, maybe they should. Yeah, sadly they do train a lot, and um, there's a lot of issues with cheerleading and stuff. Um, and I'm not sure. I mean, as a guy, we don't have any ladies in here at the moment. That would be interesting to get their take. Um, as a guy, they're very pretty. They're okay to watch, but I'm not there to watch them. I'm there to watch the game. Baseball doesn't have cheerleaders. Basketball does for some reason, but they're mostly there for like filler time. Hockey doesn't have cheerleaders. Soccer, as far as I know, doesn't have cheerleaders. They have hooligans. So really, you have football in the high school, college, and pro level that seem to really push this stuff. Um, you know, I would put it past that punk. Poor guy. He got a bum rap here, but everybody has since Peyton left. You know, yeah, yeah. Green Bay Packers would be, yeah. Well, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, they're pretty, but I can say that you know these ladies are pretty too. But why do I need trading cards of them? I don't know. I don't need them. I just kind of bid on them to help a buddy out, and randomly I accidentally win. Um, Unfortunately, randomly quite a lot. So I really need to stop doing that. But they're only like $2 a piece, so that's not too bad. Um, but it's the same way as this is going to sound like a really weird argument for beauty in things, but I watch a lot of British television, a lot. And what I like primarily about British television is it's better written. I think their actors are better because they're actually trained actors. You don't get somebody who is just a YouTube guy and then throw him into a movie and expect him to hold a role, or something like that. I mean, here I guess the best example would be wrestlers, thinking that wrestlers can hold a movie because they can hold a 10-minute thing. Um, but I also think that they're more realistic looking people. Yes, there are a lot of pretty people on the shows still too, but there's also doesn't seem to be the ageism we have, especially with women. And you get actors who have much longer careers after they probably, in America, they would have been out to pasture because they couldn't have that 6-pack ab anymore, or something like that. You get really good actors, and the actors have a lot more ability. They do radio, they do stage, they do television, they do movies, you know. Yeah, I think somebody said that in the next set of Summer Olympics there's going to be cheerleading, and why? Now is cheerleading a worldwide thing? Like, I guess I don't follow cheerleading enough to know. Um, Weird. Did it help? Lots of people have weird superstitions. Yeah, that's way too much information for this early in the morning over here. I watch my fair share of um American shows with their pretty people. I loved Supernatural. Those guys are both like underwear models. They're really handsome guys. Um, but for that it was more the story. But there are shows that just have pretty people on them for no reason, and they can't hold the show. So I don't know. I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I like seeing older actors, and shows like when they brought CSI back recently, they brought back a whole bunch of the original cast, and a lot of them are older. I thought that was great. I don't need to see 25-year-old women prancing around all the time trying to solve murders and stuff. You know, yeah, and there are older actors that I like. Like if I see, I miss character actors. And that's why shows like Law and Order and NCIS and stuff like that go on for forever. It's cool to see people show up that you've seen in other shows. And in the 70s and 80s growing up, you would never know who was going to guest star on a show. You'd watch an episode of, the Fall Guy, and Elvira would show up. I'm like, what? That's awesome. But I miss that kind of stuff. Yeah, well, I like, don't get me wrong, I don't mind watching pretty people. It's what we do because we can't do it, so why not? But it just seems shows seem more real to me if the people look closer to reality instead of they're running to. I watch a lot of crime shows, so running to catch a crook in heels and tight jeans, and that's just the dudes. That's weird. I don't I don't get it. Hey, Jonathan, what's up? Police Squad. I Police Squad, the American version I like. Isn't there a Scottish show called The Squad or something like that? I tried to watch a couple episodes and it just wasn't for me. I might have to try it again later. It might have just hit me at a wrong time. Acro, what's up? Yeah, they've had my high school had 2 male cheerleaders, and they're mostly there to throw the women around. They don't do a lot of prancing and stuff. That you get that in college and stuff, or they do the routines. They're part of the routines, but most times they're just there for background and for strength. Because they're pretty well built guys, and they can just toss these 100-pound girls around like they're nothing. But I don't know if the Broncos have a male. I haven't watched the Broncos in probably 4 years or more. I stopped watching football when it got political, and I don't need politics in my sports. That's why I do movies and I do toys. I have enough politics in my life at work and stuff. I don't need it in my outside world. So I stopped watching. So I honestly don't know. They might. Yeah. Yeah, well, and you'd see them here and there, and that's what I also liked about Stargate. And, uh, uh, Gap will tell you, I mean, that's Stargate and Supernatural, those shows, the X-Files, that really allowed Canada to showcase a ton of great talent. And those actors, like one of my favorite character actors at the moment is Mark Shepard, who played Crowley on Supernatural. He's also in The Bionic Woman. He's in Stargate. He's in Battlestar Galactica. He's in, uh, tons of stuff. You can actually probably play a relatively decent version of 6 Degrees with Mark Shepard and be able to connect him to everything. Like probably all the way back to like Lucille Ball and stuff, just because he's been in so much stuff with so many other people that, but it's I like it. Yeah. Well, the CW does that kind of stuff. But I like that. I like that they went back and reused people, and they just didn't throw those people away. But Gilster, what's up? You see the fire at Mile High Stadium? That was crazy. Alien Nation, that was a good show. I think that's actually due for a reboot. And not to slide back into political stuff, but actually Alien Nation would be a good way of dealing with immigration problems and things like that we're having in the world, and migrations and people fleeing wars and stuff like that from Syria and the Ukraine. And I think it could have a lot to say. Sci-fi has always been a great way of taking on societal issues outside without making them super political. Star Trek's always been a great movement for that. More recently, they've been a little more heavy-handed than in the past, but sci-fi has always been a good way to introduce the thought of the other or things like that, and not make it horrible. Yeah, I love like my Stargate Atlantis and Universe and SG1 autograph cards are just full of people, and you're like, oh, I know them, they were on Firefly too, or oh, I know them, they were on Supernatural, and I have a card from them from X-Files too. All right, Gilster, have a good day. Thanks for dropping in, man. Yeah, they loved using people, and it was a great way. So much of Hollywood had moved up north and now kind of have moved to Atlanta, away from California, that if you went up to Vancouver or whatever, it wasn't that far, a quick little flight. But you got a lot of people from Trek, and I mean, they made Robert Picardo was even a main character for a while. I love seeing that stuff, and they did the same thing with Battlestar. I hate that show, but I own a lot of autographs because I like a lot of the actors that were on it. I know, crazy. Go watch it. I was driving around doing my hunt, and I saw the smoke coming from downtown, and big black billowing smoke coming from a downtown area is never a good thing. I loved the episode. I love his dad. And I told him that. I've met Mark several times. In fact, we had a nice long conversation about Sherlock Holmes once, when he just didn't have anybody in line, and we just talked for, I don't know, maybe a half hour or so. Super nice guy. Kind of gruff, but in a very British sort of way. If you go to a convention and he's talking, he's much more gruff than he in that than he is in real life. But I loved his dad. I've got some stuff. I've got autographs from his dad from Next Generation and from Star Trek 6, stuff like that. But there was an episode of NCIS where his dad guest starred, and they took a picture of Mark and used it as him playing his younger self, so he got to play himself. When I would talk to him about Supernatural before his dad passed, I kept trying to push um, the getting his dad on the show playing a relative of Crowley's. And he said he would love to it because he doesn't really work with his dad very often. But Mark was also on on Voyager and the X-Files and Stargate. And I mean, he's Royal Pains, White Collar, you name pretty much anything that was shot up there, and he's part of it. My name is Chris. So you may do that, or you may refer to me as my lord, however you refer. I liked First Wave. It was an interesting show. It kind of came out and kind of disappeared. It didn't last nearly as long as I thought it should have. There are shows that last longer than they should have. Like, I didn't particularly care, like, for Earth 2. That seemed like a weird show, but I liked First Wave, which is weird because I have some autographs from that too. Because I meet people, I if I know I'm meeting somebody, I'll try and get a picture. But I like that show. There's a whole bunch of those. Kind of the 90s was a very weird time for sci-fi shows. Everybody was trying to emulate the success that Xena and Hercules had. And so you got stuff like First Wave and Andromeda and Mantis and stuff like that, Tech World. And the one with the dinosaurs, time traveling show with the dinosaurs. I don't remember what that was called. And then there was Primeval over in the UK and Torchwood that moved on to the 2000s. Well, that's the Redskins for you. They always had shit coming out everywhere. Huh. I did not know that. I forgot about Invasions. Was that the one with Brent Spiner in it? Because I know there was one on CBS. I think it was called Invasion, but I'm not sure. I liked Enterprise, sort of. I didn't watch it when they got into the whole time traveling war thing. That was just, I felt that was stupid because we'd already been told that just isn't allowed to happen. We were told that through Voyager that there's actually people in the 27th century that stop all that. That's why this whole thing with Picard doesn't make any sense, because why in the hell are they allowed to? Discovery tells us that in the Calvin universe, in the JJ verse, all time travel is actually outlawed. All species, like, apparently just destroyed all time travel technology they had, which is why Discovery is being kept secret and stuff like that, because they I guess they'd kill them. I don't know what damage can you do to the future? You're not going back to the past, so you can't, so I don't know. But I liked Enterprise. I really liked Enterprise in seasons 3 and 4. I think it was seasons 3 and 4, where they really tied stuff into classic Trek, and they tied the beginnings of the Mirror universe, and they used the Tholian Web episode in order to basically create the Mirror universe. I really liked all that. The stuff with Noonien Soon, I don't particularly care for that entire storyline, because Star Trek is now, they just lean on that all through the Next Generation, and then into Enterprise, and then now into Picard. It's Noonien Soon's whole line has just done so much damage. But yeah, well, and I need to apologize to Mark. I read a lot about the different timelines and the Kelvin verse and what's the Michael Vernon universe and all that now. And almost 50% of the people say that Picard is definitely in the prime timeline. That just because they destroyed Romulus, that didn't alter stuff enough. Also, it's because they're not using any classic ships when the show was designed, they didn't fall under the it has to be different this much rule. Now there are still great swaths of Picard I don't like, and I won't watch it. But I didn't actually finish watching all of Enterprise until it was all over either. But Mark was right; it is actually in the Prime universe. It's not what I want. I would prefer a real show with people exploring and doing things instead of relying on hackneyed things like time travel and the Borg. And I really hope Strange New Worlds returns us to a Star Trek that does stuff, treks and meets new people. Of course, you can't meet new people in the Strange New Worlds because it's a prequel. I just don't know why we can't have a Star Trek that just does stuff without whining, literally whining and crying, and just goes and explores again. That's what I want. Hey, what's up? How you doing, Maria? Good to see you. Thank you for dropping by. Quantum Leap was a good series, and I really hope that they don't destroy it. The pilot and stuff is filming now. It's as far as I understand, it's been picked up for an 8 episode beginning, and then they're going to see how that works out, and before they finish shooting the rest of the season. So we'll see. With Tia Carrera, yeah, I remember The Relic Hunter. I liked that show. It was like Tomb Raider to the TV show, and it was another one of those shows that was kind of like trying to be more of a Xena or something. But I do remember that show. I don't remember what it was on over here. I think it was on our channel too. It wasn't on a real network. Well, yeah. That'd be a downer, especially if they did the Disney version. I on YouTube, this guy keeps popping up, and it wants me to watch how historically inaccurate the Disney animated Hercules is. And I keep thinking, what? Of course it's historically inaccurate. What are you talking about? I mean, what parts of it are historically accurate apart from the names and the fact that it takes place in Greece? That's going to be about it. Hey, Kat, what's up? Terra Nova, that was it. Yes, thank you. That was bugging me. That was in the back of my head, and I kept coming up with Primeval and a couple other shows. I did not get to that one. I don't know why. But I own a lot of British television, and that just never ran through anywhere. Sean should have wrote himself into it. There's Sean Cassidy. Hardy Boys was a great show. Yeah, it'll take time to recover. Yeah, I'm glad to hear your mom's doing better. That's the one that scared me. I know you're no young buck yourself, but it always concerns me when somebody's older relative it gets it. Oh yeah. Clearly it was, and after season 1 and doing all that and moving around, it was clear that this was all done specifically so they could stay around LA and stuff and not have to do anything. Saving money is that's a great way. Flashback episodes, clip shows are the bestest way. But I don't mind episodic Trek. My favorite Star Trek will always be Deep Space Nine. But not everything moved from episode to episode. From season 3 all the way through season 7, if it had just been this giant long trot about the war and all this stuff every episode, That would not have been fun. It would have been dark and boring, and that's how I find a new Trek, is dark and boring, because I don't necessarily need to watch every episode. I just want to be able to pop in. If I need to see what's on another episode, I'll go back and watch that episode. But all the whining and crying and who's sleeping with who and blah blah blah, and I don't care. Just go explore new worlds. You know, yeah, and Strange New Worlds being more, creature of the week, as they used to say, is better. But um, I'm hoping it does okay. Hey, Smirking, how's it going? Nice, good. Um, oh yeah, Planet of the Apes was good. Planet of the Apes, the television show, was an interesting thing because it was the same episode over and over again. Um, but I do randomly rewatch it. The if you weren't a main actor, man, the makeup on that was horrible. Yeah. Well, from your point of view, Life on Mars was great. The American version was okay, but I don't know what it is when you try and take a British show and translate it to American. First of all, we run twice as many episodes, at least 3 times as many. So let's say when they were moving Red Dwarf over here, they would have used up the first 3 seasons of scripts if they were going to remake them. Or worse, they would make kind of episodes and then make a whole bunch of new episodes in between. And it just doesn't work. They've tried it with a lot of stuff, and the only time it works is when you don't translate it specifically. Like Steptoe and Son came over here as Sanford and Son. Was it One Foot in the Grave? To the Manor Born? I don't remember. One of the others became All in the Family. And you take that concept and you tweak it to an American audience. And so then, you can have spin-offs and stuff. But if you like, The Office is really one of the few that I can think of off the top of my head, you guys can correct me, that have moved over pretty much as it was. You could have reshot those episodes and just changed the words to American and been fine. And that's because of the environment it's in. All offices are like that. So it's easy to translate. Imagine taking something like Banana Man and trying to move it over here. Now, we were shown Banana Man, but try and make that a concept that works. Yeah, because you had one always about mid-season, you'd have one. And there'd be a clip show for no reason. Even Next Generation had a clip show. And there was no clip shows were just, oh my goodness. I did like that. Logan's Run, I think Logan's Run is better. The TV show is better than the movie. I know that's sacrilegious as a sci-fi person, but I actually like the TV series better than I like the movie, because you get to get more of the world, and you get more of the backstory, and you get more of more, and more is always better for the most part. Well, literally, some of the fight scenes and stuff have been the same since the 80s. When I tried to explain to kids in the 90s that Power Rangers was not new, you know, they didn't understand what I was talking about. I was like, oh, actually, I've watched the original Japanese version of this growing up myself. So, no, I get it. I get why you like it. Yeah, they took season 1 and they didn't necessarily completely reshoot it, but they were able to kind of figure it out. And the actors were able to watch the show, and they were able to see what their characters were kind of going to supposed to be like. And then they were able to go. And then, but it still transferred okay. But then you get on to season 2 and 3, and I hate The Office and don't watch it. But I have seen random episodes, and you can see how they took the good idea, and that's what you should do. If you're going to move shows from country to country, don't try and copy exactly what they did. You need to figure out what your country wants out of it. You know, hey Rick, what's up? Hey Rick, there is a link at the top if you're interested. If anybody's interested, I'll drop it again. We're just kind of BSing. Actually, just having a kind of an old school chat. Blu-ray, it's going pretty good. It's only 8:46. I have a hard time sleeping in, so I get up at 5 a.m. every day anyway. I finally just gave up and got up at 6. So I've gotten some laundry done. I've gotten some house cleaning done. I got some stuff moved around that needed to get moved. It's been a good day so far. Very productive. Yeah, and USA Network over here used to show it at night. So I love Stargate or Starscape. Farscape. Maybe I'm not doing so good this morning. I love that show. I think toward the end it got a little iffy, but the first few seasons of that show are great TV. Henson did some great work with that, and I have a ton of autographs from it. I've actually thought about starting to rewatch that recently, because I've got it on my Plex, so I can just start it anytime. But I'd like to watch it with somebody, but everybody I know has already watched it. So I love that show. It's another one of those good shows that, was filmed down under. Yeah, and we just don't. While we love Faulty Towers and we love watching Faulty Towers, part of the fun of Faulty Towers is not him berating people. And I don't think that's what they understand when they get over here. Basil Fawlty is a horrible person. Now, he randomly means well in a Clark Griswold sort of way, but he really hates people. He would really, his hotel would work great if they didn't have any visitors, and he would be very happy with that, I think. So when you try and transfer it over here, we just don't like characters like that. I think the closest you can get to a character that just hates everybody around them and just doesn't want to deal was House. But House worked because you knew that wasn't really his character. He did actually care. And he cared about his patients above all else. But just having somebody, berate people and stuff, that's just not what we watch. We'll watch it from England because we think it's funny. But we would never allow a hotel like that to exist. It would be canceled out of existence so quickly, especially anymore. Yeah. I think it was Man About the House. But a lot of 70s shows were brought over. But there are very, very specific shows that just could not work here. One being like Dad's Army, because while we had kind of a version of that during World War II, we didn't really need it. We had Canada. So, but when you move stuff over, I think Blake's 7 could have worked well over here. Doctor Who did not work well here because they tried to change what Doctor Who was. And I think if that had been given, they tried to sex him up. And I know that's all the rage now on New Who. But back then we didn't want Doctor Who to fall in love with his companion. That's just not what we wanted. And Fox didn't understand that. So they sexed him up, and then the show didn't do that poorly, but it was plagued with 90s special effects. And it just didn't transfer over here. I think it would have transferred better. Look at the success of Doctor Who now. New Who does very well here. Not recently, but for quite a while. And you didn't have to change it. You just put it on BBC America and everybody was happy. Oh, sorry, dude. I hate when that happens. Yeah, and that's because our characters that are like that are mean and not lovable. Like, I think maybe Fred Sanford could be a Basil Fawlty-ish type character, and Archie Bunker. But we didn't. I love Fred Sanford. He's hilarious. Red Fox is great. But it wasn't necessarily those two characters that we liked. On Alice, you had Mel, who owned the diner. But again, all of those characters kind of have this little bit of a heart of gold in them. They're not horrible people all the time. Thanks, Smirking. I hope your head feels better. I had one of those yesterday, and it sucked. Yeah. I liked Blake 7, and I liked Space 1999, and Thunderbirds, and Doctor Who, and stuff like that. I don't know where I picked up my love of British shows from. I can tell you that I picked up my love of Doctor Who because I was told I wasn't allowed to watch it. My mom didn't understand what the show was, and I was told I wasn't allowed to watch it. Now, she didn't have any problem with sci-fi stuff because I was by then a huge Star Wars and Star Trek fan. So I don't know what it was about Doctor Who that she didn't like, but she did not like Doctor Who, and she said that I was not allowed to watch it. And so, of course, then I started getting up and sneaking and watching it and stuff. So, if you want your kid to be a sci-fi fan, tell them they can't watch it. No, you can't read those Harry Potter books. They're dangerous and evil, and you'll turn to witchcraft, and then your kids will read them, and they're like, "Ha ha, tricked you." Yeah, Steptoe and Son did work well here as Sanford and Son, but of course it was fundamentally changed. I don't think that Steptoe and Son would have worked as well as with a black leads in the UK. Now, I don't know how well Sanford and Son did over there because I don't know if you guys even got that back in the day. Till Death Do Us Part. That's it. I could not remember the show, but yes, yeah. Till Death Do Us Part was, they keep talking about how the guy who created All in the Family and the Jeffersons and all these shows was this genius, and he was in his own way. But he was also able to take what another country had already done and been like, I think this will fly in the U.S. if I change it somehow. So you take that and and instead of being Steptoe and Son or Rag and Bone Men in the UK, and then you turn them into junk dealers in the US. We all back then, it's not as prevalent as it was then, but we all knew of antique stores that were somewhere close to just a junk shop, especially in smaller towns. And you knew those guys that are antique dealers. You'd see them around. They'd be gathering up old scrap and stuff like that. And we knew those guys, just like, you guys might have during that time known the Rag and Bone Men that were going around collecting stuff. But also being a black in Los Angeles, that helped the show because, there weren't a lot of black shows with leads like that back then. And it was incredibly well written. And Red Fox helped write the show. And you go back and watch that show, man, that show, there's a reason a whole bunch of those episodes are not on TV anymore because you could not have those anymore. It would be weird. Yeah. Yeah. That's why, and there's a big push now, and it's stupidity of banning books. There are no banned books in the United States. You can print any book you want. You can go to the store, and if a store decides to sell it, is one thing or another, but there are no banned books. Now, in schools, there are things that people think kids shouldn't read. And that list is usually stupid, of Mice and Men and The Wizard of Oz and Harry Potter and, that kind of stuff. Some of the stuff is not age appropriate and needs to be thought about before it gets put into certain libraries. But there are no banned books. But if you tell a kid that you're not allowed to read, you know, Animal Farm, they're going to read Animal Farm because that's their way of rebelling against you. And if you tell teachers you can't teach something and they want to do it anyway, they will, because it's been forbidden. And that's exactly right. Forbidding something is the best way to make it grow. You know, oh, yeah. Yeah, there's no way. No way. There is so much. I mean, look at the flack that they're getting ready to rerun. I don't know who's rerunning it, if it's Dave or it's ITV, I don't know who. Is going to start rerunning Monty Python's Flying Circus over there. And there's already this whole hubbub of what they're going to edit out and what they're not going to edit out. And of course, the remaining Python guys are like, you shouldn't edit any of this out. This is how it is. But we'll see who wins that fight. Um, you know, yeah, the Goon Show. Yeah, but there's still stuff. The Goon Show is probably it's pretty good. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I think that's pretty safe. Um, and everybody remembers things differently. Um, I don't remember the Goon Show being that horribly racist or anything, but how shows from that time. I mean, look at something as benignly clean as Are You Being Served? And Mrs. Slocum and her problems with her kitty cat. And you have Mr. Lucas, who's constantly hitting on uh, um, what's her name in The Other Side. There's an HR nightmare there. You have, of course, Mr. Humphreys, who is camp one episode and straight the next episode, and be interesting to see, because they've been talking about rerunning that, and over here it's on all the time. I don't think Are You Being Served has been off our PBS station for years. Well, not over here. Over here, most librarians are just people who work in the library. Real libraries, not school libraries. School libraries are basically they just plop people in there because they need somebody to put the books away. Hey, Darth Blaze, what's up? Dude, what are you talking about? It's 9 a.m. Yeah, see? What are you talking about? I'm free. I had a great conversation with John Inman, and he was of the opinion, and I don't know if he said this very many places. He was of the opinion that Mr. Humphreys helped gay culture get a little bit of a foothold in the UK and kind of be accepted, because nobody hated Mr. Humphreys. He's an incredibly likable guy. We never were completely sure who he slept with, but nobody cared in the same way either, because they didn't treat him any differently. Now, there'd be a sideways glance at something or an eye roll at something he'd say, or, would you mind coming and taking this inside leg? Oh, of course. But, uh, he thought that it really helped push gay culture a little bit further. And that's how he played it. And you know, well, that's what you get for living that way. If you didn't live that way, it'd be 9 o'clock. Plus, I don't know if anybody heard, the United States is probably not ever changing their clocks again. Finally, we're going to get rid of daylight savings time. Now, we tried this in the 70s and it didn't last very long. I think it lasted like 2 years or something because people just complained endlessly, which they're going to do anyway. But finally, we're going to get rid of this stupid time change thing. I guess the UK changes their clocks this weekend, I think. Actually, it's pretty nice. It's been a nice classic stream with mostly just the chat pushing it forward and me just blathering on forever. No, the Senate actually passed a bill to get rid of it. So it has to move to the House of Representatives and get approved, and then Biden could sign it. But I think it comes up for a vote next week. But there are already 18 states that have voted to get rid of it. But because it's a federal thing, you can't just not do it. I'm not sure how in parts of Indiana and how Arizona got away with it. They just said we're not changing our clocks. But there are 18 other states that are just going to get rid of it. And so you can't have 18 states in different time zones in different times at the same time, if you know what I mean. You can't have Kansas an hour ahead of Denver and then decide it's not going to change its clock, so suddenly it's 2 hours ahead of Denver for part of the year. And yeah, we'll see. We don't have toy fairs here. There are no toy shows here in Denver. We have nothing. We get absolutely nothing. Yeah, there's no holding him back. With the BBC budget for Mr. Humphrey's outfits must have been a quarter of that show's budget, because almost nothing in the background ever changes, and everybody else wears uniforms. And he would come in from a night on the town or something, and there's just this outfit Liberace would be, afraid to wear. We don't need to save it. We've got plenty of daylight. We're trying to save the earth. Not too long, actually, because I don't get a lot of dust in the house, because in this room, I don't open the outside window very often, so it doesn't get a lot of dust in it. It probably takes 5 hours, maybe, if that. And I only do it once you have to do it once a year. So, and I if I move stuff around, then I'll do it. But if I don't move stuff around, I do about this time every year, actually. Yeah, that's what they keep telling people, and it's a lie. Because farmers get up when the sun comes up, no matter what time the clock says. Coming from a ranching and farming family, they don't care. You can't tell animals what time it is. They're going to birth when they birth. They're going to want to eat when they want to eat, and they want to eat when the sun comes up, and they don't care, And my grandpa could only plow when he could plow. And for a lot of times that was when the sun was up, because he didn't have headlights on his tractor. And then once he got headlights on his tractor, he'd get up earlier or stay out later and do it. So yeah, well, that's for the whole house. That's not just for this room. This room, it would probably take me about an hour, not hardly anything. But that's for the whole house. And downstairs is a little more dusty, because I do actually have the like today it's supposed to be like almost 70, so I've got all the windows downstairs and in my room open, which means Funkos are going to need to be cleaned again here. Hey, what is up, sir? How are you doing? All the cool kids are up. So apparently this is a good sidetrack for the second. Then we'll get back to what we were talking about. There's a 5-minute clip circulating online that Matt Reeves released of the Joker talking to Batman in a very Hannibal Lecter scene that I think would have actually pulled me completely out of the movie and made me not like it. The Batman, it's right after he kills the commissioner, and Batman goes to meet with the Joker to get his idea of why the Riddler's doing this and what he really wants. And the Joker goes on about how maybe it's just about him, blah blah blah. I watched that and I'm like, this is not what I wanted in this movie. This would have taken me out of the movie completely. And the Joker talks about how they're coming up on their anniversary. So yes, the Joker, he did defeat the Joker in year one somewhere. And I just didn't need that. It was acted well, but I don't think it needed to be in the movie. And now this makes me fear that these Snyderverse people or whatever are going to start yelling and screaming that they want an extended version of the movie with a whole bunch of scenes in it that nobody cares about. But leave the Batman the way it is. Justice League needed explaining. Batman does not. Well, the best part about that is if you're out drinking, because here our clocks change on Saturday nights rolling into Sunday. So at 2 a.m. Sunday morning, the bars are supposed to close. Well, at 2 a.m. Sunday morning, the clocks change to 1 a.m. So the bars are open for an extra hour. That's about the best part. Yeah, I mean, it was a decent scene. I just don't think it needed. I don't think the film needed it. I think somewhere someone told him you have to have the Joker or infer the Joker or something. And I think that's where the end came from. But, yeah, exactly. A good scene, I just think it would have disrupted the movie completely. Kind of like people have wanted the scene with Luke and Biggs and them put back into Star Wars. Well, how would that work? So the opening crawl goes through, the Star Destroyer flies over. There's this little bit inside of R2 and 3PO. Then they launch the escape pod, and you cut to Luke on Tatooine with his microbinoculars up looking, and then there's this whole other scene with those guys. Then you might cut back to Vader interrogating Captain Antilles and capturing Leia and R2 and 3PO's arrival on Tatooine. Think of how that would have stopped that movie dead. Just absolutely dead in the track in it. And I think that's what it would have done. Speaking of stopping a movie dead in its tracks, Star Trek, the motion picture. I fall asleep almost every time I try and watch this movie. I like most of the movie, but then there's great swaths of like a half hour of footage I don't need of them flying through V'ger and stuff. I don't care. Get there. Get moving. That movie's too long to start with, and now I guess they found some new scenes. So this is not only a director's cut, this is a new director's cut. It looks beautiful in 4K. And of course, yes, I will buy it because that's what I do. Now, move on to Star Trek 2, and let's get, the TV version out that has 10 minutes of extra footage and get it in 4K and clean it up. That's what I want. Exactly. And that's why, while I didn't like him in the movie at all, but the little reveal we had of him at the end was just enough. Now, yes, that does pigeonhole you into using him in the next movie, but having him there and talking about their first anniversary and all that begs for information. And what was that fight about? Where did the Joker come from then? Did Batman accidentally create him? Is that why Batman doesn't care about anything and is really just super vicious? Is that why the people, the criminals of Gotham are so scared of him? Because of what went down between him and the Joker. See how that's just an an unnecessary thing. You throw that in a book or something. I have not read the prequel book because I don't do homework to go see a movie, but Brandon has read it, and I'd be interested to see what he thinks. And the actor who played the Riddler is actually writing a comic book series that is the Riddler Year One that shows how he made that transition into the Riddler. Which that version of the Riddler I'd kind of like to know, but I'm okay not knowing Year One Batman stuff. Yeah, I mean that would have just killed that whole movie dead, you know. And there was enough bad editing in that first wave of Star Wars as it is, you know. Yeah, there was stuff in Star Wars that definitely just didn't work, or it didn't move the plot forward, or it slowed things down. Explanation is always good. You can always have a good exploratory scene. And the Batman has a couple of those. But I don't need another one. I don't need him to, he's the Batman. Why in the hell would he go talk to the Joker about anything? You know, he doesn't need the Joker's opinion, you know. Um, well, it's not it wasn't supposed to be a movie. It was supposed to be a television series. And then as soon as the TV series got killed, then they had to add stuff to it to fluff it out to make a movie. I think a lot of the acting in it is great as always. Like, you're not going to get better than the normal cast. The sets are incredible for some of the other areas of the Enterprise and stuff that you don't ever really get to see. It's great. V'ger's cool. The idea that the Voyager spacecraft went off, and in EU, they ran into the Borg. The Borg found it and created V'ger. There's a whole bunch of stuff in old Trek EU that won't work, but yeah, it is starship porn, which it's that's fine. ILM always does great work, but that movie could definitely use some hacking. I don't know. You could. I don't know. I see, and I don't know what they're going to do with that, because of course you've got this Penguin prequel coming, and the Penguin prequel will overlap that timeline. So there will probably be discussion of the vigilante, and what if the Joker worked for Falcone, or for Maroni, either one. So that'd be interesting to see. Well, no, that's absolutely false. George's vision was too grand. And since he wasn't actually there to oversee any of the editing in the beginning, he put it off on this other people who turned out a horrible thing. And he knew that his wife was a great editor. So she went in and saved it, was able to cut a whole bunch of stuff together. Sound editors did their thing, all while George is still shooting stuff and having to push ILM to actually get the work done that they were going to do. George's ideas were just too vast for the time that he had, as you can see with the prequel trilogy. That's more what he wanted to see, but he couldn't do that then. And yeah, that's why she won an Academy Award for editing. I mean, it's, but well, they are men in masks. I don't know about why this attack on George Lucas is happening, but uh, George, told the makeup, and they literally went to stores in London and picked up masks and put it on. He wasn't the lighting guy. He was the director. He had to fight with the cinematographer and the principal photography guy constantly about scenes and how he wanted them shot as opposed to how they wanted them shot. It's, being a director on something like that in a country you're not used to, having to fight unions constantly that won't allow you to do certain things. Yeah. And yeah, but not in the Batman universe. Editing and the music saved Star Wars. ILM's work is incredible. It really is what they were able to produce in the time that they had. But I don't know if Star Wars would have worked without the music. There's just, as usual, it's just a whole bunch of things that come together to make a movie right. And some movies have that pre-written into them. Harry Potter, has a preset audience that's going to go see that. And that's what you have now, is you have preset audiences. Back then, nobody knew what a Star Wars was. I mean, you see them at this convention, they've got an 8-foot folding table with some posters on it. The trailer is god awful because they had nothing to show because everything wasn't finished. And, she did a great job editing, but it's not like George wasn't helping edit and didn't approve edits. He's the one who watched what had been edited so far and was like, god awful. This is horrible. What are you doing? And that's what happens when you turn your movie over to an editor and you're not actually physically there to help. And so there's a disconnect. Like, you can tell the parts of Jurassic Park that George Lucas directed as opposed to Steven Spielberg because of how that is shot. And it's clear. But he also helped edit the movie. And you can see Lucas's editing in the back half of that movie. And he still had to show shots to Steven, and Steven would approve them. But, yeah, George is not a dialogue guy. And George is not a people director. He's better with stuff, shots, edits, that kind of thing. Yeah, they did, and Gary was a big part of that. And then Gary kind of let loose a little bit in Empire Strikes Back, and by the time we got to the prequels, George could pretty much do whatever he wanted because of the technology that moved forward. He was still limited, but I mean, now you look at the sequel trilogies and how expansive they are, sometimes not needing to be, but yeah, the wormhole. Yeah, my favorite part is when McCoy shows up. He's like, "Damn it, Jim, I've been drafted." Well, he tried that, and Ivan did a good job, but George was still there every day. George was still putting in input. Now, in Return of the Jedi, George almost directed that himself. It's pretty well known that McQuarrie didn't really direct everything. And that's why Steven and George worked together on the Indiana Jones movies. And because they both have ideas and they bounce them off each other. But George isn't the best director in the world for certain things. Like American Graffiti is a great movie. What issues do you have with American Graffiti? He directed that. And it was a huge success. Well, it is because you guys are here. This would be nothing without you guys. You guys keep me on track, push me forward. I may be running 2 or 3 conversations with different people, but, well, and that's allowing your actors to have input. That's a good director does that. A good director will allow actors to take a script that has a whole bunch of technobabble in it, to use a Star Trek phrase, and go. Now, some directors are like George, who want a shot and then move on. They think they got that shot and they move on. Now, an actor might not think that. Then you get people like, Coppola or Stanley Kubrick, for God's sakes, who do 60, 70 takes of the exact same thing until they literally drive their actors insane because they want a different shot and they want a different angle in this. That is over directing. Now, George is a very hands off guy, and he thinks it's right there on the paper, just say it and move along. But you do need actors' input, especially if something like that has so many moving parts. And that's why George had Carrie Fisher come in and do rewrites on the prequel trilogy, because he knew she understood writing, she understands actors, and she was able to do some cleanup on it. Well, and George says that. George outright says that by the time the prequel trilogy came around, nobody was there to tell him no. So there was nobody to rein him in. He's funding the entire movie with his own money. His special effects company is doing the stuff. His sound company is doing the sound. His music organizations is doing the music. There's nobody to tell him no. Now, I don't think there are as many structural problems with episodes 1 and 3 as there are with 2. George's thing is he knows where he wants to start and he knows how he wants to finish. The in-between stuff is where he gets bored, I think. And so while he did have a clear vision, which the sequel trilogy did not have, getting to the end could be a fight. And that's where I think, you go back and look at the making of documentaries for episode 1, and you go back and look at the art books and stuff, and you see every idea that then showed up in the Clone Wars or Rebels, or what's going to show up in the Mandalorian and in Obi-Wan. You never throw anything away. A good idea is a good idea. And George can see a good idea. It may not fit in his vision, but he does see a good idea. Yeah, I got a whole bunch. Well, they start at 7 a.m. my time, which is a very slow time for me at work. So if I set them as premieres, I can actually be there and BS with you guys for a few minutes. They're not very long. But yes. Well, and he really enjoyed working with Coppola and stuff, being in the background, shooting stuff, making some suggestions, that kind of stuff. And he really enjoyed that. He doesn't like directing. He said that. He is an ideas guy. He's a ILM guy. He's a Skywalker sound guy. He's an innovator. He's the one who said years ago we were going to be able to replace actors soon, and they can just be CGI, or we can replace their faces or whatever. He said that before the prequel trilogy came out. Here we are, being able to do the deep fakes and stuff. But I think, and that's where he's best. That's why I think him and Spielberg work so well together, because when they work together, they throw ideas, and Steven is there to say, no, that's a little too far, or George is there to say, that's a great idea, but what if we shot it from this view? And I think that's why those guys work so well together. I really hope that they work together on Indy 5, but although it didn't look like George was there at all. So that is true. Only second to Star Trek's 5. What does God need with a starship? Trek has so many good lines. Yes, he was. So in Star Trek EU, I can't remember the book, but there was a civilization that V'ger ran into that is proto-Borg, basically. Now, they never explain, Trek books don't have to explain anything. That's why they're great, but they're not canon. The books have really not, randomly they throw things in from them, but they just because. You also have, if you remember the Doomsday Machine, that big, like, worm thing that was moving through the galaxy that the Enterprise stopped. Guinan's people made that to destroy the Borg. So in another book, they made that and they sent it on its way. They didn't really plan for it to break away and start like eating other planets and people and stuff. It was going to the Borg homeworld and was supposed to destroy the Borg. But, well, she's always been terrifying. The Borg were terrifying until they turned into the Daleks, and now they're just a joke. That's what happens when you overuse a villain. If like the Daleks, just, how many times have they been destroyed utterly and completely? 6, 7, 8. But every time they do it in a different year. So, at the end of time, there's the Great Time War, and Gallifrey was destroyed, and the Daleks were destroyed. But well, hell, Tom Baker destroyed the Daleks. Hasn't almost every Doctor Who killed them at least once? And you overuse them, and they're not a threat. They're the Daleks. They're not a threat. The biggest thing they ever did was in New Who, and they gave them hover things so they could go upstairs. That was the best thing they ever did. But the Borg, I don't know. The Borg are just, yes, they're terrifying because of what they can do, but I just don't feel that the Borg are really. They're just overused. Voyager, I thought, was a great way to kind of clip them off. But I mean, it's nice to see, stuff, classic Trek stuff, I guess, in Picard, in normal timeline, instead of getting stuff from the Berman timelines. I don't know. I like new Cybermen. New Cybermen that kind of, I don't know if it was ever implied until recently that Cybermen just kind of clipped onto you like some sort of ectosuit and like took over your body like that. That to me is more disturbing than the Borg, who just inject you and then you're just not you anymore. You don't know you're not you. But the newer Cybermen, I was pretty sure they showed that you can kind of remember who you are inside there and you're trapped in there forever. That to me is more horrifying. To be in there and not be able to control what I was doing or who I was hurting or anything like that. No, I wouldn't be surprised. Who assimilated who? There were Cybermen with a better budget. Yeah. When I go back, I love watching old Doctor Who randomly, and watching old Cybermen just crack me up because they're so clearly just somebody threw that costume together in 20 minutes. And a lot of classic Who people are like that, and that's part of the charm. And Gen Zers and stuff can't watch that. I've tried to have people watch it, and they just can't get past the effects, or the some of the cheesy acting. And I don't know if we got that comic over here. I know Trek is crossed with a lot of stuff over here. Was that an IG? Did Dark Horse do that, or is that Marvel? Because I don't think the guys who do the Trek comic over here have the rights to Doctor Who. I have to see about that. But yeah, the classic expanded universe, they did go in and, like, you know, there's this whole thing where Kirk's going to be in the second season of Strange New Worlds. That's cool, as long as they don't put him on the Enterprise and don't have him meet, you know. At this point, I guess it doesn't matter, sort of, because in doing all that research about what the prime timeline is and what isn't, we are not, Strange New Worlds is not in the prime timeline. It is also not in the Kelvin timeline. There is a new timeline that people have decided exists called the Michael Berman timeline, which is the character from Discovery. And the deviation from the time in that we go from the prime timeline to her timeline is she was supposed to die as a child on Vulcan. It's talked about in Discovery where she apparently was going to fall down a hole or attacked by an animal or something. I don't remember which, but she lives instead of dying. And in the prime timeline, she died, which is why Spock never talks about her, why she never comes up, because she was a non-entity basically in his life. She died several months after coming to their family. So while it was sort of traumatic, maybe, but not for a Vulcan, she starts a completely new timeline herself. And that's where, you know, the Klingon War never happened in the prime timeline. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens in Discovery that never happened in the prime timeline. And it seems to be that the fans and stuff are tracing that back to that point, that she lives and a whole bunch of other stuff happened, and that was another divergent in the timeline. So there's the Kelvin timeline where the movies take place, and up until a certain point in the Discovery universe. Then that verts off into its own little thing, while the prime timeline stays the same until the destruction of Romulus, and then they make a turn. But the prime time, so that creates a whole other thing going back in time and actually creates the Kelvin universe. So once again, it's a whole bunch of time travel, timey-wimey bullshit. Really? I'm going to have to check that out. I don't remember an IDW book with Doctor Who. I own a whole bunch of those. Oh, I don't know. I'm so tired with the Union Soon stuff. It's too slow for them. Oh my God. They cannot take sitting and dealing at all. And they just, I mean, I was watching an episode of the Rockford Files the other day, and it's 50 minutes long. There's only 10 minutes of commercials because it's made in the damn time where you didn't have a half hour of commercials for an hour program. And one of the younger people at work was kind of watching alongside, sort of. And they were basically like, is this ever going to get to an end? I'm like, this isn't even an hour long. Oh God, it feels like I've been here forever. Like, really? You have no. And then I was watching Citizen Kane. Oh my God, you would have thought I was torturing them. It's horrible. Kirk never talked about his brother. Next. That's because you just don't. Vulcans don't share shit. I mean, it's not difficult to explain that, as opposed to an adoptive sister that was fundamental in your deciding to join and be with Starfleet, who aged at the same rate as you, even though Vulcans age at a slower rate, and then disappeared. Yeah, there's a whole bunch that doesn't work with that. I love the Rockford Files. I'll rewatch that. I rewatch a lot of shows. Kojak is another one they could just not wrap their head around at all. It just, Well, and I'm trying to think there was a reasoning. I don't remember. There was a reasoning in this new timeline, the Berman timeline, where they didn't talk about him either. But who cares? We haven't seen that classic Trek series yet. Roloff, what's up? So as far as bringing Kirk into this timeline, I don't care, because this is neither our Kirk nor JJ's Kirk. This is a completely new Kirk that may or may not have had some of the experiences of normal Kirk. He's definitely not JJ Kirk, because JJ Kirk by now already is, I don't know, Admiral of the Universe or something. I don't know. He jumps. Well, and that was just, I don't understand why they needed to do that. They could have just had her be adopted by another Vulcan family, but then they needed to pull, Sarek in, and then that brought connectivity to classic Trek and stuff that they shouldn't have done, because it just messed up the timeline and the canon. If you just had her be somebody else's adoptive daughter, that would have cleaned all that up. Didn't need to happen. Just didn't need to explain it. No, this is not our Kirk. This is not in the Prime timeline. This is in the Berman timeline. So this is not our Kirk. So I don't care what they do with him. If they want to have him, be captain of whatever ship he's a captain of at the moment, then that's fine. If they want him to meet Pike in this time, that's fine. They can do whatever they want with him, because this is not William Shatner. And this is not Chris Pine. This is a different dude in a different timeline, and they can do whatever they want. I don't want that. There are people who are trying to push to have seasons 4 and 5 of classic Trek shot. And that won't work, because you can't do this Kirk and expect all 3 seasons of that old show to have happened, and then suddenly be in season 4 and have a completely new ship with a completely new cast and completely new people who didn't have what. So you have, I don't want that. I wouldn't mind a new Kirk show. I guess. I mean, why do we have to have a Kirk show? Can't we have some other show? I mean, Discovery's done well enough on its own for 4 years. Why can't Strange New Worlds have a 3-season run? We don't need to have the classic Trek people in it. That's why I don't like Uhura being on this Enterprise, because that's not where she was. But this is not the Prime timeline. So whatever happened in the other timeline that shifted Uhura here, that's fine too. It's just there's 3 different Star Trek series timelines, and as long as they stick to them, that's fine. Just don't cross over. Sweet. Jaws is fucking scary as hell. That's why I still remember I watched that on TV back in the day, and I got the shit scared out of me. That's awesome. Apparently they're doing I misread. I thought they were doing a Jaws Broadway show, but apparently they're doing a making of Jaws Broadway show, which is even crazier to me than trying to make a Broadway show where the main character is a shark. Now you're going to show the trials and tribulations that Spielberg and them went through to get the movie made and to make it. So it's a very, I don't know. That's almost too meta for me. I don't know. That's weird. Anyway, speaking of movies, Morbius comes out the end of the week, I think. So early reviews are it's not so hot, but I don't think with all the meddling they had to do because of having to do reshoots for for No Way Home and for uh, Doctor Strange, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little off. Um, I know that just screams it has to be a song, and I don't know. It just yeah, dude. I don't know. I I don't know. Broadway's gone nuts. They don't have any new ideas either. Hence the SpongeBob. Yes, yes. That's what I'm screaming at Star Wars is stop having everything so damn connected. It's a giant universe, except for that one part that Luke doesn't know about because they erased it out of the maps. Um, not everybody has to be connected to everybody. That's why some of my favorite episodes of the Clone Wars and stuff are when they go to other planets and none of those people have any fucking idea what a clone is, what a Jedi is, what the Separatists are. Nobody's a Skywalker. It's great, and Trek needs to learn that too. Now, connectivity is okay. Klingons, Ferengi, Cardassians, that kind of stuff. That's fine. But, you know, Picard did not I did not need to see the hull of skulls and this is Gul Dukat and you destroyed him here and this is General Martok and the Ferengi in front must have been Grand Nagus Zek. Oh, what a great battle that must have been as he cuts down an old Ferengi at the steps of the finance building on Ferenginar. I didn't need that bit. I don't care. You didn't need to name those people. They could have just been skulls in the background and then let people pick if you want. You know, it's Trek. It's not. Can't you just pick a new ship? Look at the missions of the Titan. Or trying to think of there's a series of books that's actually based on a completely different ship, and it has like one crew member who showed up in an episode of Next Generation or something. But apart from that, it's all new people, and it ran for quite a while. Strange Brew, that's a good idea. And that's how I feel about a lot of the characters in Discovery. I loved Doug Jones's character almost immediately. And I don't remember what her name is, the peppy one. I think she's an engineer or something. I liked her character right away. I hated Berman's character almost immediately, and I couldn't tell you what turned me off of her right away. But right away in episode 1, I did not like her, and then she starts the Klingon War with those things that they say are Klingons, and yeah, I don't know. See, these songs just write themselves. Oh my goodness, that news. Well, people from the academy. If you go to a 4-year college with people and you go to generally the same classes and stuff and you're in a dorm with them, you're going to meet a lot of people. That's how a lot of connections work. That's how Harvard and Yale and Oxford and Cambridge and all those places work. You meet people, people, and then later in life they help you. Um, that's the thing is done. Wow, interesting. Because it was being pushed here as it's in production. I really hope that if this is true, that they don't take this scene and create a musical out of it. Because the way it's being explained now is it's a making of documentary, sort of. I saw that, and that's funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny. For those of you who don't know, Kirk Thatcher is a producer and stuff. He's worked on Trek for a long time, and he was the punk rocker guy in Star Trek 4 that won't turn his music down, and so Spock has to, nip him. Apparently, he's in the new episode of Picard. Basically, is the exact same character, just like 40 years later. And I thought that's very funny. Yeah, and that's, I don't know. They seem very afraid to just pick up and leave. Where you already have things like, I don't read any of them, but that High Republic, yes, there are some ties to normal Star Wars, and you're going to have that if you have Yoda in it, or if you have protocol droids and you have lightsabers and you have starships. But you don't need to have a Skywalker. You don't need to have Palpatine. You don't need to have that stuff. Knights of the Old Republic works just as well. There's almost nobody from normal Star Wars in that. But like animated and stuff always seems to have a hard time pulling away because people complain and they're afraid of people complaining. I don't know. I don't know. You're right. It with the normal Star Wars with the 6 episodes, that made perfect sense. And then when you moved into the sequel trilogy, having Leia and Luke be these kind of mentor characters, they should have started their own thing and not had it tied so much to the original 6 movies. I didn't need the ending of the Skywalker saga is episode 6. It's not episode 9. Because everything in the sequel trilogy is contrived. The First Order is contrived. The reason they exist is contrived. The reason that we have, no Jedi Temple is contrived. All of it is just thrown together haphazardly. The Empire still basically existing without anybody knowing for, 30 years. And they are trying to retcon that in some comics and stuff like that. And some of it can make sense, but I didn't need episodes 7, 8, and 9 to be more Skywalker stuff. I wanted 7, 8, and 9 to be a Finn, Poe, and Rey story. I wanted it to be their story, and maybe our heroes are in the background, pushing stories forward. Just kind of like Lando was in the last movie. He wasn't really in it. He was just there to move the plot along. And, if you were going to make one of the characters a Jedi, then yeah, you're going to have to involve Luke and the Jedi Temple and stuff like that. But once they decided to get rid of the twins idea and walk away from Lucas's outline for episode 7 and change the character dynamic so much that Ben Skywalker was, or Ben Solo, I mean. Anybody can be a Skywalker. Maybe he wants to take his mom's last name. And then they brought the Emperor back and yet another Death Star. And it just, none of it seemed like those guys got their chance to have their own movies. Even as much as the prequel trilogy is connected to the sequel trilogy, to the normal OT, they still feel like separate movies from the Star Wars Empire and Return. Yes, you have overlap characters in the Emperor and stuff, and Obi-Wan and Yoda, but they're background characters. And of course, they're being background characters because they were written first. The overarching person in them is Anakin Skywalker, and then his son. With the sequel trilogy, those actors were never given a fair shake. No, I don't have a problem with the actors. I thought the actors did a good job. I thought what they did with what they were given was fine. The music is subpar because they made so many changes and stuff. You constantly had John Williams trying to make new music to fit things. Like if you look at The Rise of Skywalker, that music sucks because he's having to reuse themes and stuff because the movie was finished like 3 weeks before the film came out in theaters. How can you write new music for that? You can't. Even the great John Williams can't do that. So the scripts were the problem, the plan was the problem, and that's where I see that they were never given an opportunity. Plus, Star Wars is stuck in a 3-movie thing. Look what happens when they break away. Rogue One, good movie. Solo, the more I watch Solo, the more I like it. Even though I'm not really sure we needed that movie, it's a fun film, and I like it. Huh. So is it the characters or the actors? So it's just the actors sitting around waiting for Bruce to get fixed, and they're just talking. I would find that really interesting because it would have to be based on possibly real conversations and stuff. Partly, I think that would be interesting to watch. Huh. The shark is broken. Maybe I'll go see if somebody's got that on YouTube or something. Hey, what is up, man? How you doing? We're randomly talking about how Star Wars and Star Trek and Jaws really. There's for a I didn't even remember I owned these, so I'm making a video of them later. But how many of you unknowingly maybe have some of these in your collection? I did not know that I actually owned any of these, and apparently I own 5. So I'm going to do a quick video about them later, and that'll be one of the short videos that's up. But I didn't know I owned those, and I was looking through a box. I'm like, what are these? Because they come in this box. And I'm like, what the hell is that thing? And I looked at it. I'm like, huh. Open them up. I'm like, oh my god, cool plates. I don't even know what are in the other ones. I did not know that was Sulu, so I don't know. I only have 5, so I can't have a complete main cast. So I don't know what I've got. But had I known that, I might have had George Takei sign that last time I saw him. But yeah, I know I own a Three Stooges plate somewhere. And my grandma gave me a I Love Lucy one from the Vita Vita Vegemin episode. And that was her favorite episode of that show. And, man, they made plates for everything. I remember seeing those at cons for Trek and Star Wars, and there's just a whole 8-foot table of them. There's probably a couple hundred Star Trek ones, because they were doing ones for every episode there for a while for Next Generation. I don't know if they did that for Voyager and DS9 or not. But somebody should go retro and put some Discovery and Picard ones out. That'll be interesting. But they had NASCAR ones. I've run into them at flea markets and at stuff like that. They have really weird ones and stuff nobody would ever buy. But so well, I think we're going to get ready to wrap everything up here, guys. It's coming up on 2 hours. It's a beautiful day out today. I don't know what I'm going to do. I should really do some yard work, but I don't think that's going to happen. Check out those videos. They're dropping just about every other day. It is at 8 o'clock my time, or no, 7 o'clock my time. So sorry if that's a little, cool. I will go watch that. That sounds that sounds more interesting to me than the behind the scenes making of Shark. I don't know who greenlights stuff. Although I would have never have greenlit a Beetlejuice Broadway musical either. And some of the music's actually pretty good for that. And apparently it was good. People who saw it. So who knows? So check out those videos. if you can, drop by, give them a like, give them a comment, share them if you would. Most videos are getting around 30 or 40 views now. And, I'd like to get them up a little bit. Coming up on 1,700 subscribers. So thank you, everybody who does subscribe. Thank you. Thanks for everybody who shows up here. John, Geek Strong, Mark, of course, Rick, Stargate, Razov. Everybody drop by, say hey. It was great. We'll be back next Friday. I might actually have some stuff, depending on what I can find next Thursday on my hunts. So check out those videos. Till then, catch you on the flip side.